Take 3. I have Blender open with the default layout. We're quite zoomed in for the scale that source models use anyway. Go to github.com/winjournals7/base, clone or download zip. You save that somewhere. Then in Blender, edit, preferences, add-ons, install your downloads folder. You can just type in where you want to go here. And then find basemaster.zip. I'm not going to install it because I already have it installed. Then in the category, go from all to user so that you can actually find it. And import export, turn on base. Save preferences. At the time of recording, we're on version 0.2.8. Then I like to save very often. I'm going to change my layout to be better suited for Source Engine. So I'm going to duplicate the layout. I'm going to name it Source. I'm going to reorder to front. I'm going to get rid of the timeline because I don't do animation at the moment. Right, let me explain how this works. You move to the corner here. It's not that intuitive, but and you drag out and then you have this. And if you drag in and you see this arrow, then you're gonna eat this view on the side. This button changes the view type. I'm gonna put a UV editor at the top and a shader editor at the bottom. We'll need these later, so I'm gonna just hide them or make them small for now. Next, I will change the other things that matter, which is I like to use look dev mode, set the shading. Under shading, I mean turn on backface culling so that you can see which way a face is facing. And under overlays, I like to set the grid subdivisions to 8 because that's what Source uses. Then I will go make a surf ramp. I press N to open this panel, and then here I set the clip start to 1 meter. Because if you zoom out and it's too small, you get visual glitches at the moment. Maybe they'll fix that sometime. In edit mode specifically, you get those glitches. And the end I'll set to 100,000 meters. A meter is equal to a hammer unit. Here I go to the base tab because we'll be using that shortly. Then I add my cube and I make it, say, 1024 units. I press Shift C to zoom out to an appropriate amount. And I use this thing to change sides. Or you can Alt middle mouse click drag to change the different sides as well. So now to turn this cube into a surf ramp profile, I'm going to select everything with A, press S to scale, press Z to confine it to only scaling on the Z axis, and then move it down to 0.125, which makes this slice 128 units. That's a pretty good amount. If you make a smaller ramp, you can get away with 64. Because we're making a Blender ramp, you can be crazy smooth without any problems. Next, I'm going to scale these edges on the 1, 2, 3 to change between these modes. I'm going to scale these edges, or just this face, on the x-axis. One divided by 16, 16, yes. There you go. Because that gives me 64 units. One of these squares is 64. Though if you zoom in, then one of these squares is 8. And if you zoom out, then one of the squares is 512. So, I'm going to press G to grab and move it on the y-axis by some amount. Let's, in snapping, I set it to increment snapping, absolute grid snap. Actually, I don't need to do that right now because it's already on the grid. G, Y, and I hold Control to use snapping. And then this isn't surfable, and this is surfable. I like to go for a 4:5 aspect ratio. So let me use Moff to figure that out for a second. Let's see, I suppose this edge should move on the y-axis, no, the x-axis, minus 32, positive 32 on the x-axis, there you go. Then if we were to move this face up here, this is 45 degrees exactly. Yes. So let's see, this is 8 squares across. So then I would want it 10 squares down. So G, Y, minus 128. There you go. Now this is 5:4 aspect ratio. I'm going to add a spine by clicking this face and pressing E to extrude. 128 perhaps. That's a bit big. Let's just do 64. That looks like a pretty nice ramp profile to me. I'm going to move it on the y-axis. There, if you're in orthographic, if you're in a 2D view, then you can use the grid snapping if you hold Control. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go out of edit mode for a second by pressing Tab, right click this, shade smooth. Under the object data tab, that's the upside down triangle, I'm going to turn on auto smooth, so normals, auto smooth. And then back in edit mode, I'm going to select these faces, hit Shift N, and then in this pop-up, inside, so that these normals are now the wrong way around. That's necessary for the array modifier later, you'll see. I select these two faces at the top, P to separate by selection. I select the bottom two faces, and I separate those. I'm going to call that the top one start and the other one end, so that I can find which is which more easily later. And then in object mode still, yes, I would like a curve. I'm gonna start with a path, see if I can do something nice with that. 1024 size perhaps. It's quite invisible. So it's a one size, go in edit mode and then scale it 1024 times. The little arrows are quite tiny. I need to think of a solution for that, so give me a moment. Okay, perhaps if I start it at 1024 size and edit it. The thing about a path is, oh, I'm animating at the moment. I suppose I should not have closed the timeline, because apparently at some point I pressed Shift Space, which is my bind for running the animation. So set that back to the start, doesn't really matter. I'll keep that there so I know whether I'm running the animation, I guess. Right. because I'm dumb and cannot figure this out, I'm just going to use a Bezier curve. So Shift A to add curve Bezier. That's a good size. Go in edit mode. Select everything. Scale on the y-axis 0. So it's a flat line. I'm going to move this on the x-axis by 512 units. I'm going to move this on the x-axis by minus 512 units. There you go. Now I've got a nice even thing. I'm not going to mess with it further for now. So then, under the Surf Tools tab, don't worry about the collision generator for now. I'm going to pick my curve, my segment, my start cap, my end cap, and press the Add Modifiers button. Now you see a surf ramp appears. If it's upside down, then you just rotate it on the z-axis. And that will make it not upside down. And just type the number 180 or whatever you like. So now I click the curve in here specifically and I go edit it. You can curve on, sorry for saying so much, but whatever. You can curve on multiple axes at the same time, that's no problem. Press E to extrude another piece. So there's a surf ramp. I'm going to let's move the whole thing around. Oh yeah, you can hide the end and start pieces. Won't be needing those. Move this to like there. So now I've got a crazy surf ramp. That's pretty neat. So now how to texture it and export it. Yes, important. That's why I have these views. So first things first, you're gonna wanna go in edit mode on your segment. Click both of these faces because what I'm going to do is have the surfable faces have one texture and the other faces have another texture. You know, that's pretty usual thing to do. But that does mean that you have to actually split them into a different object. That's no problem. It doesn't have to be a different model, just a different object. So I select these faces, I press Ctrl I to invert my selection, and then I press P by selection. Now I've got what should I call this one? Well, whatever. Cube 001 it is. Alt A. Let me unselect. Oh, I'm in edit mode. That's what's going on. So then in the modifiers tab, that's the little wrench. In the array modifier, you'll see that they both have the caps. You don't want that. I'm going to see here. Yes, this one has all of these faces, and this one has the surfable faces. I'm going to remove it from the one with the surfable faces. So now surfable faces is one object, and the sky is one object. Don't need to worry about those settings for now. Sorry if I'm losing focus. In overlays, I turn on wireframe and drag it all the way up so you can see how smooth the ramp is. It's pretty smooth, if I may say so myself. I'm gonna unhide everything, select everything except for the curve, edit it, press A to select everything, scale on the Z-axis by 0.5, and now go out of edit mode, and now you can see that it's twice as smooth, because you can get away with a lot. You have to actually move the caps when you scale the segments, so that's why I select those as well. Alt A is to unselect things. Yes. Start by texturing these faces. So I'm gonna turn off this wireframe mode in overlays. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna hide the curve. Don't need that at the moment. Ooh, what's this button? Bin no tree. You know what? I don't know what that means. I don't need to know what that means. Boop. There you go. So then, yes, let's start with my segment. I go into edit mode. I select this face. I press U, unwrap. Looks good to me. Don't have any margin, preferably. So now this is the correct aspect ratio, and it happens to be in the right direction. Otherwise, you can just select everything with A. Press R to rotate. Hold Control and do that, or type the number 90. But before you do that, select this vertex, press N to open this panel, and copy this number. Or this number, depending on whether it's vertical or horizontal. And then you can click out of this and press N to hide it again. This number is important because in here, in the U offset, you paste it. And what that does for you is that the UVs will automatically, the next face will automatically be here, and then the next one there, and the next one there. So there'll be no seams anywhere. It will be perfect. If it doesn't, if you do still get seams, you might have to make the number negative. Oops, negative, yes, but probably not necessary. And this face I will also unwrap in the same way. Probably that's fine. If it's not fine, then you can rotate it 180 degrees in case it happens to be the wrong way around for one of them. So these are unwrapped so that the texture perfectly fits once in height. That's usually pretty nice, unless it isn't, in which case you can scale it up. So if you want, it's the opposite way around, basically. If you want to zoom in, you scale down. If you want to zoom out, so up the texture scale, you scale up. Zoom out, zoom in. Yeah, that makes enough sense. Let's see if I have a texture that I can use. That is unfortunate. Sure, this is models tech. Yes, good. I'm just going to. Oh, it needs a material first. My bad. So in the materials tab, I'm gonna need some materials. I'm gonna use 2 materials. So 1, I'm going to name the first one. You have to name them exactly the name of the VMT, Valve Material Texture file, which happens to match the name of these PNGs that I have set up over here. Tile 22, plaster wall 13. Yes. So in tile 22, here in the node editor, I'm going to Shift A, search, and add an image texture. And that's excessive because I could just drag this thing in. I forgot that you can do that. Drag this thing in, plug the color, into the base color, and now you can see it. And that's looking mighty fine to me. So, and how about the other side? The other side is messed up. So, you know, one of these two is upside down. See if it's this one. It was not that one. Now they're both upside down. So now they're both the right way around. I would imagine I am wrong. Right. This will take me a second to figure out, I suppose. So this side looks good. That's the right side. So then this is the left side. Rotate 180 degrees. Did I fix it? Did I figure it out? Okay, see, that wasn't so hard. So now it perfectly follows the ramp, and there's no seams anywhere. In Hammer, this is pretty much impossible as far as I know. So that's pretty sick. Yep, that's that one unwrapped. Let's do the other one. This actually doesn't need the plaster wall material in here. I only need it over here. So again, right, if you, I'm gonna drag this in here first and connect the color, and then I'm gonna mess with this. So basically, you go to your materials folder, you take your material that you want to use for your ramp. So for example, real world textures 2, concrete, asphalt backdrop 1, sure, whatever. You want to use this, you copy the VMT. So, and then I remember railroad textures 2, concrete, and then I go materials, models, railroad textures 2, concrete. That's just how I like to do things, so that this is in the exact same spot as the original one, but in the models folder. And then you go edit the material to be a vertex lit generic, and this and that looks a-okay to me. Like these things can work in a vertex lit generic, and this is a top hat waffle texture, so you have to put his name on the map somewhere, I suppose. Whatever. You can, anyway, I'm not using this texture, I'm using these, which are also from the same pack. So then you copy this name and you name that your material, and then this folder, models, real world textures 2, concrete, will need to be a material path. So that's over there. That matters. Don't worry about it for now, though. So I'm going to texture this as well. I made this a separate body so that I could use a different texture scale, because that X value that I copied earlier is going to be different for this one if I use a different scale, which means that it needs a different array modifier, which means that it needs to be a different object. So it looks like a hot mess right now. That's fine. You unwrap. See if I like that scale. I don't like that scale. I'm going to scale it up 2 times. It looks pretty nice. I'm going to alt click around this corner so that it selects everything. You could also press L. I want this to, I'm gonna use follow active quads, which means these need to be attached. So I'm actually gonna temporarily make a face here. I'm going to alt click here, or press A to select everything, whatever. I'm gonna click this, reselect it so that I make sure it's the active face, and then you follow active quads. Length or length average, either is fine. Usually length average is actually what you want, because length might not give perfect results. So now it's, you know, it's nice. Same texture scale everywhere. I made the mistake of not having this at a nice spot, so now I have to use quick moths. So that's unfortunate. It's fine though. Hide this nonsense. I would like to select this. Oh, right, I'm in face select mode. That's what's going on. 1. Now I'm in vertex select mode. Select this. X value. Take my calculator. Minus the other X value, which is a negative number, so it's plus the positive version. And then I get this number, and I copy that. It needs to be 1 or less. That's the limit of the UV offset thing in the array modifier, unfortunately. And I paste that there. And now I'm going to delete this extra face and go into object mode, see if it looks not like garbage. And it looks yes like garbage. So I'm going to turn this guy the other way around. Beautiful. See if the bottom's any good. It's kind of dark, so it's hard to tell, but yes, the bottom looks good. These faces look like garbage, but I'll fix that. This one's good. All is good and well. That's what I like to see. Now I will fix these faces up. So I hide this guy, get these both in here, select both of them and edit them. Face select mode, select everything, U, unwrap. That works for me. They are not textured at the moment. I can do that. Plaster wall for the start, plaster wall for the end. Now I can actually see what I'm doing. Now back to editing them, because you can edit multiple things at the same time. Scale this like 2 times. Scale it another 2 times. There you go. That looks about right to me. Hide these, show everything. As you can see, your assembled surf ramp. Isn't that lovely? So now, exporting, yes. Ooh, only 30 minutes in. I'm fast as fuck. Yes, exporting, the base tab. Settings, first of all. If you're modeling at a 1-to-1 scale, you can leave this at 1, so that's what I'm gonna do. You're gonna wanna add your game, so click plus, select your game, click the folder icon, navigate to the path. Doesn't matter if this is relative or not, if I fixed that recently, and you press accept, and then it will name the thing based on the name of the game in the path. And there you have it. I already have 3 games added for convenience for myself, so I'm gonna use Momentum Mod, the surf game. That is good. Oh yeah, not quite gonna export it yet because I'm gonna generate collision for these things. So how I'm going to do that is take the cube and the other cube, take both segments, and I'm going to duplicate both of them. That looks really silly when you move them around. And hide the originals. I'm gonna name this Cole and Cole 01, whatever, because these are for collision. So the collision meshes, let's see, what do I need to mess with to make them good and not bad? Nothing in particular, I believe. So I select this one and then I select that one and I do Ctrl J to join them into one thing. I'm actually going to call it cube.col because that's my naming convention, name of the thing.col. My add-on actually looks at that also. The UVs are going to look messed up because I joined them and they have different values for the array modifiers. Doesn't matter, it's for collision anyway. Are there any doubles? Yes, there were doubles. So I select everything in edit mode, press space, type doubles, remove doubles. To remove extra vertices. I don't think this actually, no, that super doesn't matter. Completely unnecessary. I'm wasting your time. I'm sorry. So the caps also need collision. Actually, I don't need to do effort out of that. So to generate collision for the caps, I select both of them. And I new apply generate collision. Sounds good. Boop. Now we have collision for those. And now in my cube collision, I'm going to use self-ignore for the collision generator. So now that has made triangle lads, and it looks like a hot mess on the inside, and that's perfect. Oh, backface coming. Right. So in the modifiers tab, instead of using the original start and end caps, it should be using the collision variants of those. Perfect. So now I've got a collision mesh, and I need that. That's important. Yes, good. Now we can start exporting. So in the model export tab, I click plus. Sure, props example. Ramp base tutorial. Surface property. These look like tiles, so yes, tile happens to be on T, so I press T and I get tile. That's lucky. If you have glass, you should use mostly opaque. If you have like large glass, if you have really tiny glass, you should use opaque, but I don't have support for that. Yeah, I can just add that at some point, I guess. Meshes. You're gonna want to unhide these. So your segment and perhaps your other segment and your collision segment. Select everything. Click plus. Because it has .col in the name, it already made a collision, but otherwise, you know, you just click collision. And then material folders. Remember these from earlier. The tile is in models, real world textures to tile. And the wall, plaster wall, is in models, real world textures to wall. And now hit export. Shouldn't take too long, and view your model. Yes, it works. Look at that. It's got the stuff, it's got the other stuff. It looks absolutely marvelous. If you do ask me, and I do believe you could, if you wanted to, I'll allow it. Yes, physics model. I messed it up. Of course I messed it up. Right, if you get that, that's not good. You need to fix it. So I'm gonna look into what the issue is and then fix it. As you do. Yes, I know what the issue is. In the collision model, the collision object, make sure that in the array modifier merge is not enabled. I guess this is already off by default if merge is off. But anyway, just untick merge, and then now it will look proper. It will look like weird triangles everywhere, and that's perfect. That's exactly what you want. So yeah, merge needs to be off, else you can have a bad time. Now I'm gonna export it again. I'm gonna view it again. physics model. There you go. Perfect. Get the wireframe physics model in there so you can see what's up. So every triangle of the original mesh basically becomes its own tetrahedron, its own convex hull. And then, yep. And that actually works for some reason. Source likes these, I don't know why. Right, the great thing about this is now, you know, you just did 35 minutes of effort, at least. But, look at this. Save it as a new file. Unhide the curve, unhide this guy and that guy, perhaps. Look at this. Absolutely mental. Hold up. And I edit the curve. This is now a different ramp. Boop. Now you have a different ramp. You never have to do it again for this profile with these textures. So you just save this file and then you open it and start working with it. Oh, you open it, you save it as whatever. You perhaps replace the textures with other ones. You don't necessarily have to change the unwrapping. You might have to change the scale a bit. And then now you just you export this guy, and now you have a different ramp, which is also functional. So that's pretty neat. Let's have a look at them in game. Don't worry about the spaghetti hell. It's what God would have wanted. What is this hidden collection? What is this? Oh, okay, I don't care. Let me see. There should be a, yes, this cluster. Just gonna give myself a bit more space in this direction. Example tutorial ramp. I don't think this is the correct, yeah, ramp based tutorial, that's the correct one. There you go. Copy this one. Are there any horrible settings in this? Just double checking. No light maps. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Do disable vertex lighting. Vertex lighting can look kind of awful, so if it does, disable it or don't compile with the vertex lighting setting. So I'll compile the map. Give that a moment. It won't take too long. Yes. Don't worry. Oh, why am I lagging? OBS is making my computer lag. I don't know. It didn't do this, and now it's doing it, and I don't know why. 65% CPU usage. Jesus. I hope I'll be able to show the ramps in action with that nonsense going on. Yeah, but you can see it looks neat. Viclite wireframe one, very high resolution, smooth, rampy boy. Ah, this lag sucks. What is going on? OBS settings. I don't know what I messed up in OBS. It used to be fine. But just pretend like I'm not lagging the fuck out. You'll have to experience it for yourself. These ramps are crazy smooth. And also less buggy somehow than much simpler hammer ramps. You could experience a bug on them, but it won't be often. It's very rare. Like once every like 2 hours at best. At worst, I mean. So you can slide on the spine. Whee! Well, apologies for the OBS making my computer die. Maybe it's from the update, because it didn't have this problem. I updated, now it has this problem. That's what's going on. Either that or I messed up a setting. Yeah, that's pretty cool, is it not? I think it is. Alright. If you have any questions about anything, then you can just add me on Discord. I'm in the Momentum Mod Discord under the name Buongiorno7 at Buongiorno7. Number 3007, I think. So just contact me there. It's much better than like YouTube comments or something. Though, I mean, if you must use the YouTube comments, then sure, you can ask questions there too, or say anything. I'll include the blend file for this one. I'll pack the PNG so you don't need those, and I'll include the blend file, and though you won't be able to export it because you won't have the materials that I have. Yep. And then you can do something. Let's see. Consider the video over, but I am just gonna mess with it a touch more. So, no image texture. Let's just use a UV map for the UVs, and then a Voronoi texture, and then plug this guy in there, plug that guy in there. Yeah, 10 looks about right. Let's get me a crackle. It's actually bump, put the thing into the thing and the boop. Boop. Can't tell whether it's working. Maybe if I up the distance. Oh, that helps. That helps a lot. 500. Now I've got rocky rocks going on over here. And let's use a color ramp. You can't use this in maybe you could bake bake it to the UVs. You can't really get this texture out of Blender and into game. Or if you can, it won't be very good. There's some sort of rock formation going on. Put that in the roughness as well. Oh, no, that's not what I meant. I want that in there. And I want this one in the roughness. And then that one can be here. And this one can be there. Look at that, doesn't that look kind of neat? I think it looks kind of neat. Just doing this so you have something neat to look at. Just replace that mess with your own image texture. Because I'll include this blend file in the thing. Noise texture, color ramp, another one, a bump. This color ramp can be upside down again. Oh, that's interesting. The more you zoom in, the bigger this thing becomes. Weird. Sure, let's go with like 1,000. Let's not go with this horrible yellow. Put 1,000 there as well. Oh, I didn't plug it in, that's why it wasn't working. Put some poopy mud. Ah. Gotta get a UV map in there. Important. You don't need to pick this UV map in here unless you have multiple UV maps on your model. A bit shiny for my tastes. Scroll wheel to zoom, by the way. Delete this texture. That one's already gone. Get this guy out of here or whatever. Never mind. Yes. I'm just messing around with shaders at the moment, if you can't tell. Change these to something you actually have. Change the material names to something you actually have. So basically this does not show up in game because these textures aren't textures. They're just made, they only exist in Blender. So just keep that in mind. I can't export these for you. You'll have to look into texture baking and that stuff. That's a whole different video. Let's see. This file will do. Give me that Google Drive. What's a good place to put it? Where did I put the previous ones? Oh, here maybe. Sure. Right, yeah, so the video's over. That's pretty neat.